All-American games and our what we like to call the path to national competition. So, why does one want to be a part of Football University? Well, All-American games started with the U.S. Army All-American Bowl, and then from there we went to building a bowl that features the top 100 athletes in the country, such athletes as Andrew Luck, Andre Peterson, Patrick Peterson, Eric Berry, the list goes on and on, Tebow, top lane kids that have played in the game, have gone on to the pros. Other than that, we also have the U.S. Army National Combine. We bring the top 500 underclassmen, the sophomores and juniors, down to San Antonio. Coach Fuller was there this year. We're working and evaluating the talent level at the D-line. From there, we back it up to where our FBU brand comes into play. So FBU camps, we're about to kick off our 2014 season, 35 camps across the country for a 3-day session with our NFL coaches. It's a technique-only camp, but it's also an invitation-only camp. And Coach can tell you a little bit about the type of athletes he likes to work with. How can you get into FBU? Well, you can either be identified through our scouts, through the I-350, or you can nominate yourself for an invite, but there is an evaluation process, as this is a little bit more of an advanced camp than your typical camp you may go to. Some of our youth and junior high athletes have participated in our FBU National Championship this past fall that led down to the Final Four teams going to San Antonio. And then, again, we kick off our FBU football camps coming up this April. We're in, again, 35 locations across the country. From those regional camps, you will then be invited to Top Gun out in Dublin, Ohio in July. That is our Top Gun showcase, where you will then compete from the top 10 to 15% of the athletes from our regional camps can then go on to compete in a national showcase. And then from there, we select our high school events as well as our youth for the East Bay All-American Bowl. So that's a quick outline of who we are and what we are, what we do here at All-American Games. But what we're really here for is to learn a little bit about defensive play. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on Coach William Fuller, who's been with us for about 3 or 4 years now, alumnus of North Carolina. He was a 3-time All-ACC selection, 2-time All-American. He had a couple years in the USFL, if those are us old enough to remember the good old USFL, before moving on to a stellar 13-year career. Oilers, Eagles, Chargers. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. He has a sack. He's a limited limited fraternity member for the 100 Career Sack Club, and he is nicknamed the Fuller Rushman. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on Coach Fuller and talk to him a little bit about his coaching philosophy, what he looks for in coaching athletes, what he's been up to in this offseason, maybe some thoughts about the combine, and then we can certainly chat with everybody up there. So, Coach Fuller, welcome, and we appreciate you spending a little time for us.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. How's everybody doing? I know you have you muted, but certainly want to say good evening and appreciate you guys being on the call. I'm a little bit stuffy here, fighting a cold that I'm getting over, but certainly excited about having the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you this evening and talk a little bit about FBU and football and helping you get better as a defensive lineman. As Joe said, 14 years of professional football, enjoyed playing the game both at the youth level and the collegiate level, 4-time All-American at the University of North Carolina, and I was fortunate to have a 15-year career in the NFL. But it really started with great coaching, particularly at the University of North Carolina, but also in high school, and starting with the fundamentals. And that's what we do, and that's why I really love FBU is they're passionate about fundamentals. And I know you guys, as football players, like all football players, especially defensive linemen, we just like to get after people. But it's a lot more involved than just going out there and playing football. You have to learn how to play football, and it starts with just a little small thing. So we start from the basics and then move up to intermediate level, then to more advanced teaching. Even on the collegiate level and on the professional level, if you were to go to some of their early practices, getting ready for the season, they work the same way. It's all about a progression, starting with the little things. And I was a guy who really focused on that as a young player. I had a coach, a D-line coach, Chuck Prefer, who coached at the University of North Carolina, who was a real big fundamental guy. And so I owe a lot of gratitude to him for teaching me those fundamentals at an early level, and they carried me on through college and then on to professional football. We'll start with the basics, really just the stance and alignment when you get to FBU. And we will focus heavily on your stance, because everything starts with the stance. If you start with a improper stance, then the chances of you having a successful play are greatly diminished. And so we will work on your foot placement, how far your feet are apart, how far back they are, how much weight is on your hand, where you have a flat back stance, and we'll also differentiate between a run stance and a pass stance. And so we'll work on that early. The first day that you get to FBU, we will work on stance and alignment. Then the next thing is get off. Obviously, as a defensive lineman, I'm sure you guys have had coaches to really focus on that get off. Well, that's paramount. That's paramount. Even a split second, 1 second, 2 seconds, means the difference between you're getting to the quarterback or you're having a successful play. So we're going to really focus on that get off after you have been taught the proper stance. Now, hopefully you guys already have a great stance. We can move through that pretty quickly and get on to playing football with that snap reaction and that get off. And then it's about attack angles. How are you going to attack this offensive lineman? Being able to bring your hands first, lead with your hands, using your hands to lock out that player, that offensive lineman, and gain control of that offensive lineman. We will talk about target engagement and core thrusts as far as defensive line play is concerned. And by target engagement means where you're trying to put your hands on. Where are you trying to shoot your hands? You're trying to get into his chest area. And, excuse me, when you come off the ball, you know, how do you best shoot your arms to be in a position to be able to get to that particular area? We'll also talk about the thrust, your hip thrust. A lot of people think that good football players or the best football players are the strongest football players. Obviously, you have to be strong in this game, but it's the ability to be able to utilize that strength. And by that, I mean being able to put your core thrust of your body, bringing that power from your feet to your knees, through your hips, and being able to thrust that power into an offensive lineman to be able to neutralize him. Then it's about disengagement, being able to separate and get off of that offensive lineman. I see a lot of young players who are pretty good football players. They're able to come off the ball well, tack well, but then where they lose at is in that disengagement, that separation, locking out your arms, and then the disengagement. And actually, that is probably one of the most important parts of defensive line play is the disengagement. I see guys too lackadaisical and dropping their arms when you have to shed just as aggressively as when you attack the opponent. And those are kind of the basic things that we start with. Now, after you've been able to show proficiency in those basic strengths, then we can go into more advanced training and more advanced concepts as far as defensive in-play and interior defensive line play is concerned. Your reads. We can talk a little bit about your positioning as far as flexing off the ball, particularly when you have teams that run a whole lot of zone concepts. If you have a team that's very good at zone blocking, meaning that they're not coming out to physically whip you, they're trying to beat you to a spot and gain control. So if you're able to move back a little bit, flex, and the old Dallas Cowboys used to use this years ago, move off the ball, it gives you a little bit more time to actually realize what that offensive lineman is trying to do. So we'll talk about those kind of advanced concepts of flexing off of the ball as well. Obviously, as a defensive lineman and being in the 100-sack club in the NFL, we'll get into pass rush. And I know most of the defensive linemen, certainly I do, have always loved the thrill of getting to the quarterback and getting that sack. And so we'll focus on a lot of moves as far as attack moves, counter moves, hand fighting, and different techniques that you can use to beat an offensive lineman and get to that quarterback. Joe, is there something you want me to focus on in particular? Or?
No, Coach, you're good. I mean, we got a question here from Ben Stapleston. Is there anything they could work on to prepare for the FBU camp? So when the kids are coming, is there a workout or something you suggest that they do to prepare?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Any drills or techniques where you're actually using your hand, using your feet and your hand-eye coordination translate very well into football. I tell guys in the off season that it's not about just focusing on football techniques, but hey, whether it's playing basketball or some other sport, they have some skills that translate over to playing football as well. So I wouldn't just focus on particular football drills, but just making sure that, hey, as an all-around athlete, you're staying active. Excuse me, this cold's really got me.
That's all right, Coach. Appreciate you. Jake asks, what can I do to improve my quickness? Is there anything you can do, whether it's quickness off the ball or hand speed?
Yes. Obviously, having that proper stance is critically important. I don't think players realize if you have an inferior stance, then you're being able to get out of that stance and get off the ball is going to be diminished. But one of the drills that we use at FBU is kind of what I call the chase the cat drill. And so if you have another player that you can work with in this drill, you're in your stance and he's about 3 yards from you, and he's going to tackle as fast as he can. And what you have to do is to reach out and come off the ball and touch him as quickly as you can. And so if you start that drill with him about 3 yards, you see how fast you can come off the ball once going on his movement and touch him. And then if you're able to touch him in 3 steps, you'll see if you can touch him in 2 steps. And then you can adjust his depth as far as moving him back. And, him now having an advantage to really get out of there and seeing how long it takes for you to come off the ball and really touch him.
Coach, here's a question for you. Over your stellar career, both in high school, college, and in the pros, how important was technique as you advanced kind of up the ladder in the game? Obviously, were you very dominant in high school, or did you struggle a bit in college, or did everything come easy for you? I mean, how did you really have to focus your technique as your competition level grew?
Definitely it didn't come easy. It didn't come easy in high school, didn't come easy in college, and certainly didn't come easy in the pros. I was a tweener, meaning that a lot of the NFL scouts and the teams at that time didn't think I was big enough to play defensive end. Mind you, I was coming out of the era of Too Tall Jones and Harvey Martins, those 6'5", 6'6", 280-pound linemen. And when I came out of University of North Carolina, I was only 255, 56 pounds. Even at the University of North Carolina, when I first came out of high school, I was about 240 pounds, so I was able to put on a little bit of weight before leaving there. But nobody thought that I would be a great defensive lineman at the time. I'm sure North Carolina was trying to figure out whether or not I should play linebacker or kind of a stand-up defensive end type. But anyway, having that great technique and being able to outmaneuver, and it was also critical once I got to the pros. When I first got to the pros, I went against guys like Anthony Munoz, who was going to be a Hall of Famer, and he just dominated me early in my career. I mean, dominated me. He just ragged. And so going back and studying the film and seeing exactly what was I to be able to stand up to him was critical. And so it was just studying the little things. Was I coming off the ball? Was I staying low? What was my hand placement? Where was my first step? What was his steps? And was I getting off of him quickly as far as shedding him or letting him now use that power once he was able to engage, using that power against me? And so the more I studied him, the more I studied my own technique and saw where I was lacking. I was more able to start to win my share of the battles against this guy. Now, nobody knew at the time. I didn't know that this guy was going to be one of the greatest players to ever play the game. But where I was getting ragdolled and getting beat earlier, I started to win more and more plays. He was in our conference with the Cincinnati Bengals, and so we faced him twice a year. And so I started to win more and more battles, and I started to win my fair share. And then and now gaining that experience going against the best, it was much easier once we played other teams.
That's great insight, Coach. Thanks for sharing that. Alexander Evans got a quick question for you. Other than working at football university, what's been the highlight of your career?
I've had so many highlights in my career. It's hard to really pick out one. Obviously, my first Pro Bowl when I was in Houston, because I know all the hard work that it took to get to that point, and I knew some of the battles that I had lost, and that no one really saw it coming. A guy that had 3 or 4 sacks, all of a sudden he goes from that to 15 sacks and being recognized as one of the better defensive linemen in the NFL, and take that plane trip to Hawaii, or right next to Anthony Munoz.
That's great. Now, Coach, obviously a guy of your experience, the levels of coaching you've been at, what kind of draws you to FBU? Do you enjoy it, and what do you enjoy working with the kids year in and year out?
Oh, I absolutely enjoy it. Kind of thinking when I'm working with these kids, what was I like at that time? Obviously, there was some very good coaches who worked with me, but I certainly didn't have the opportunity to spend time with a former NFL player. And, kind of wondering, hey, would I have been smart enough to take advantage of that opportunity? Hopefully I would have, but I don't think I met the first NFL player until after I got to college. And so, just seeing these kids and seeing how much they enjoy playing the game, which I definitely have always enjoyed the game, even when I was not the best or considered one of the best. I've enjoyed playing the game and enjoyed the process. I think that's is critical, is understanding that playing this game and what happens in the NFL on a Sunday or on college on a Saturday is all about a process. And you win the battles in the off season. You win the battles in the film room. You win the battles really critiquing not just your opponent, but critiquing yourself and understanding, where am I lacking? Where can I get improvement from? What do I need to focus on? And understanding that, doing those little things and having the opportunity to work with coaches at that particular point is critical in how well you do on the field and in games. And so, I enjoy that, and hopefully I'm getting across to these kids that it's not about just strapping on the pads and going out and playing, and that if you really want to be successful, you gotta be successful off the field. You gotta work on the little small things, the little things. The difference between a 6-inch step, and a 10-inch step may seem small to a player, and as a former player who's played the game at the highest level, I understand how critical that is. Locking out, using your hands, being able to shed, understanding what this guy's trying to do to you from an individual standpoint, meaning the man-on-man, one-on-one battle. Yeah, that's one battle, and then how that all fits into the much larger scheme.
Thanks, Coach. And Ben's asking here, when you get to FBU, what are the scouts looking for to send you to Top Gun? So how do you evaluate the kind of talent there that's going to get a Top Gun invite?
Great question. One, we're looking for guys that are hungry, and so when the coaches are coaching and teaching, both in the classroom and out on the field, we want to see that guy with those hungry eyes. And I'll scan around and I'll see who's paying attention and who's looking around, looking at somebody else's drill. And that really tells me a lot, because I don't see, I want to see that hunger. I want to see that with an old country coach, the Southern coach once told me, he said, son, I want to see that want to. And I said, want to? What is he talking about? He said, yeah, that want to. I want to see that desire. I want to see that desire. And when I see that desire, I don't mean just when we say we line them up, you go one-on-one. I want to see that desire in the classroom. I want to see that desire when we're going through our individual drills. You know, I want to see that desire in the fact that you're paying attention, and you're asking questions, you're inquisitive about how you get better. So just by you asking that question is certainly positive. And that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking. In this game, you're going to get beat. And it's not the guy that goes out and wins a drill and thinks he just impressed everybody. Yeah, we'll look at that, absolutely. But we also want to see those guys who are working to get better, because we all develop at different timetables. So the improvement that you can make from one year to the next, from one practice to the next, from one game to the next is huge. So yeah, we're looking for guys that compete. We're looking for guys that have that hunger, that desire, that want to get better. Obviously, there are going to be some guys that are more talented than others, and they're going to stand out. And at FBU and Top Gun, yeah, there's a place for them. But just because you're not that guy doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to impress us, whereas we'll say, hey, he deserves to be there. He may not be where he wants to be or where we think he could be at this particular point, but it's our job to help him get there. And if that means that we think that by putting him in a position where he's among the best and some of the better players, and yes, he will lose some battles, but we know that it's going to make him better, and that, you know, he will certainly be in a position where he's definitely proven that he's a top guy that following year. So it's not just about you being the absolute best guy that particular camp. We're looking for the best, no doubt about it, but there's also room for those guys who we see you have it. You got that potential. So we're looking for potential as much as guys with outright skill.
Great, Coach. And, you know, Alexander's asking, you know, should I be exercising with weights at 12 years old? What's your thought on that?
At 12 years old, yes. I think that's the point where you start. But when you say exercising with weights, don't look at it from the standpoint of where I have to lift more than the next guy or lift the most weights. I think it's a situation where you start to ease into it, because at 12, you're starting to really hit that growth spurt to grow into your body, and that's all part of a natural process. And by you going in and just working out as hard as you can, it's not going to advance that process. But yes, starting to lift weights, not trying to lift the most weights, but also, you know, beginning to exercise that muscle in a way that we're looking for the more repetitions that you can do, as much as how much you can do. You know, because obviously in playing football or playing any sport, it's about using muscles on a repetitious basis. So yes, I think you do need to start lifting weights, but not from the standpoint where you're trying to lift the most weights.
That's great insight, Coach. You know what, I can jump in as a former strength coach at the college level and then a long-time high school football coach. You know, I think, Alexander, if you want to focus on technique and, like Coach said, how many reps can you do, but how well can you do it? You know, you want to learn the right angles, and you can learn this and apply some of your math and geometry, the angles of the muscles and your joints, so that way you are creating those great habits. So when it is time to put the weight on and compete with the guy next to you as you get into your later years in high school and in college, then you've got outstanding technique, and that just mirrors exactly the way we look at it on the field. As you know, we want to have that great technique when you're battling, so that it just keeps growing and growing. Hey, Coach Foley, you know, one of the things we can talk about a little bit is you mentioned earlier about the classroom. You know, I think one thing as a former high school coach that really excited me when I first saw FBU was the work in the classroom. So, you know, for those who are not familiar with it, athletes, you know, we film all the drills with the coaches and all the competition drills. So when you go one-on-ones with the linemen, when you do your pass rush, when you're doing your various different competition drills, we film that. And just like they do at the NFL level, at the top level college, we bring that into the classroom, and you guys sit there with Coach Fuller in a nice intimate setting, and you're going to watch that film just as if he was reviewing it with his own athletes. So, Coach, take us through a little bit of the classroom setting that we use at FBU camps.
Absolutely. What a lot of guys don't realize is how much film study, classroom work that we do in the NFL and on the collegiate level, and when you compare that to actual work on the field, I mean it's minuscule. We spend the majority of our time in the classroom, and so that's what I like about FBU is pretty much an example of if you were on an NFL team or an NFL organization, the way that you would see how we approach the game. So in that classroom setting, we're able to now take your film and to break down every element of your stance, of your technique, and to refine it and to make little small corrections, and hopefully you are able to see exactly what we're talking about once we run through that film. We can roll the film back in slow motion and go through it frame by frame. And again, that's exactly what we do on the professional level. And we will show where your technique is lacking on the film and point it out. And if we have to spend a little extra time in, going over and really breaking it down so that you can see, we're able to do that in that particular setting. And then we're able to go back on the field and work on those deficiencies, film you again, and come back in and see where you've made improvement. And hopefully you've made improvement. Well, I haven't done my job, but that's exactly how it works on the professional level. So you're getting professional teaching on the field as well as in the classroom as it relates to film study. And hopefully now you can go back when you go home or when you watch film of yourself, you'll be watching it from a totally different vantage point, because some of you have never really been taught how to watch film, how to break down my individual position and reps and what to look for as far as when I'm coming off the ball. Is my hat too high? But I see guys lose battles for simple reasons, and they don't see it obviously in the middle of a play, and sometimes they don't see it on the field. But once you get in the film room, now I'm able to break it down and slow it down and stop the film at a particular point and show you. I see too often on all levels where defensive linemen are coming off and they're coming off too high. Their hats are too high. And so I can stop and show you on film where your helmet position is higher than that offensive lineman. That means your attack angle is too high, right? That means you don't have any power when you're attacking him. It's kind of like a snake, with a coil. When he's coiled up, he can strike at a longer distance. When he's uncoiled, he cannot gain that distance. And so what we want to do is want our defensive linemen to stay in that coil position, and when you uncoil the strike, that's where some of your power is coming from. So but we're able to do that in a unique way in a film session.
Now, Coach, one of the other things that I really liked that drew me to FBU, again, as a former high school coach, was the evaluations that you guys do at the end. It's one thing when you sit down on that Friday when the athletes come in, you talk about goals, you have your private position meeting, and then we get after it, right in the first practice that Friday afternoon. But, walk us through, the eval process, because I think that's the real benefit. That's the one you really can't put a price on aspect of the FBU experience is at the end of your 2.5 days, you and your families really get to sit down one-on-one with that coach and get a true, honest, objective evaluation from a professional. So kind of walk us through, if you don't mind, how you enjoy the evaluation process with the families and things you tend to discuss during that time period.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So much of the things that I've talked about are part of the FBU curriculum as far as defensive line is concerned. I could break it down like stance alignment, snap, reaction, and get off, target engagement, and core thrust versus run, disengagement and awareness, and then some of the advanced stuff, recognizing, blocking, schemes and settle point and change of direction and pass rush moves and hand fighting. We teach all of those skills, and then we evaluate how well you have been able to do these various drills that we've done, and then we will write down how well you've done, but we'll also offer up methods of improvement, meaning what you can do as on an individual basis when you get back home, and what you need to work on for the next year, hopefully, as you come back to FBU. And so you'll be evaluated, and it's not really about you're being evaluated against the next guy. It's about where you are at this particular stage and what we think you need to do to improve. And so we'll offer up different drills that you can do, things that you need to work on, where we see you can make the biggest leap as far as improvement is concerned, and we'll write that on paper. And I enjoy sitting down with the players, and their sponsors or parents, and just explaining to them, the thought process that went into that evaluation. And where I see, well, this kid has a particular skill set where, he's advanced, I'll say it. Hey, he does an incredible job, for his age group at this particular skill. At the same time, I may say that, hey, he's behind others in his age group in this particular skill, and this is what we need to work on. I'll say, we'll recommend this kid needs to come back for another camp, and this is what he needs to work on in the interim. Or, obviously, if he's shown a higher level of proficiency, then we'll recommend them for our Top Gun camp.
Thanks for sharing that, Coach. Jake's got a question here. What's the best way to defend pass on the D-line?
Best way to defend pass? The best way to defend pass is one is to get off, obviously getting off of the ball, but a lot of that has to do with knowing that the pass is coming. And so obviously in these pass-happy offenses that we face, you're being able to get off the ball even on first down is huge, because if you get a slow jump off the ball, the ball is coming out of there quicker and quicker every year. So, in 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds, the quarterback is getting rid of the ball on a lot of occasions. So, in those instances where on the back end you've got your secondary who's done a great job of covering, and that quarterback has to pull it down, you have to be there. And so you don't know when that's going to happen. So you got to treat every play as far as coming off the ball as if it's a pass play in a lot of instances. That's how the game has really changed from years ago when I played. First down was primarily run at that time. Now it's even, and in some cases teams throwing the ball more on first downs than later downs. With that said, then obviously you gotta look at, can I find an edge to be able to know whether or not it's going to be a run versus pass, and that may be in their particular set, their alignment, how many backs are in the backfield, that sort of thing. That's part of what your coaches will do as far as your particular scheme. But you can also tell from an offensive lineman stance, whether or not he is coming off heavy for the run, or he's showing a cue for a pass or draw or something of that nature, where you really have an opportunity to really get off of the ball and be disruptive. And so we'll talk a little bit about some of those kind of things at FBU as well. But you got to almost, quite honestly, today, which is different from when years ago, is almost treat every play as a pass play as far as coming off of the ball and getting out of your stance.
Thanks, Coach. Any last-minute comments at all from the audience here? If you want, just shoot me your name. That's in the text box. Just type in your name, and I will unmute you if you want to ask Coach a question directly. If not, our time's coming to a little bit of a close. I want to keep it to an hour. We got to get, as you can see, Coach got to find a little head cold, so we got to get him rested and geared up because we start our camps in less than 4 weeks, and he's going to be moving and grooving out there with all the guys. So we got to get him loaded up with some vitamin C and cranked up a little bit. Is there any questions from the audience? Just pop your name in the box there. And I will tell you this, while we're waiting, if you have not, some of you, we invite a lot of the people that have either, already registered for Top Gun or for FBU camp this year, or have had an interest, whether they've been nominated. And if you haven't been nominated, feel free to go to our website at footballuniversity.org, click nominate, and you can either nominate an athlete, a coach can nominate a player, as well as parents can nominate a kid, and that basically just says, hey, I've got an interest in Football University. One of our scouts will reach out to you and discuss in more detail, maybe a little interview on the resume of your athlete, as well as talk. But if you've already gone through that process and you've already have your code to register, then by all means, click on her and get yourself signed up for the camp. If you have any questions specifically on the camp itself, feel free to call our office. We're there from 9 a.m. in the morning till about 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and feel free to reach out with our scouts, our coordinators in the office. We'll be there to contact you, and we look forward to having you at camp this summer. Like I said, this is recorded, and I'm going to put this up on YouTube. So if you missed any of this, or you need to share it with your parents, if you're an athlete who's asking questions, or if you're really excited about FBU and you need to share it with your parents, by all means, don't hesitate to have them call us, and we can get you guys involved. All right. Thanks so much, Coach Fuller, and we look forward to seeing you at camp. I appreciate all of you taking the time out of your busy day to learn a little bit more about Football University. More importantly, get to spend some time one-on-one with Coach Fuller, and we'll see you guys on the field this coming spring. Thanks, Coach. Have a great night.
When we get over this cold, I'll be ready to go. Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you on the field.